Good Tuesday afternoon to you. 4 o'clock time for Sports for CLE. Plenty of Browns to talk about, so let's get right to it. Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, NBC Sports, gives us the latest of what his sources are hearing about a potential Deshaun Watson suspension.
Based upon reaction of someone who has seen the submissions of the parties, 2 to 8 games is the expected range. We'll see. We'll see. Everybody's all over the place on this. This is what we've heard. I'd be stunned if it's a full year at this point. And remember, one of the best arguments for Deshaun Watson, comparing his punishment to any punishment imposed on owners who may have or did violate the personal conduct policy. And I keep coming back to the fact that mum's the word from the league and the team on whether or not the Texans are being investigated, whether or not the director of security is being investigated for a personal conduct policy violation based upon the fact that he became aware of an issue with Deshaun Watson, and as Watson has testified, the guy gave him an NDA to use moving forward.
And again, Florio is referring to the Texans settling with those 30 claimants last week. All right, Mike Florio again on some of the challenges that the league is facing with their case against Deshaun Watson, for lack of a better term.
See, the league's in a tough spot with these investigations. And I think the league realizes that that sentence we've discussed in the context of Deshaun Watson's disciplinary hearing, owners are held to a higher standard. I'm truncating and paraphrasing. But by adding that gratuitous language in there that owners are held to a higher standard, everything you do or don't do as it relates to a team becomes fair game when the NFLPA is defending players under this revamped personal conduct policy. So how do you avoid it? You just look the other way, or you don't talk about it publicly. You just downplay it as much as you can. And I think that's what they're going to do.
All right, before we welcome in Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one, again, about the Deshaun Watson case.
Hello, Dave. This is your boy in Vegas. I'm sitting listening to your program, and everybody's worried about Deshaun Watson and Memphis and all that. I would say look forward to between 4 to 8, 8 being the top, 4 being a must. And to all the Cleveland fans and all the names on the back of those jerseys, well, I'm old enough to remember you could add some more on there in my misery. I'm telling you, we've got hope. We've got a championship quarterback. For the first time since I've been on this planet, we've got a championship quarterback. And the only exception I can think of is Bernie Kosar. He had action. The rest, no way. Go Browns.
All right, appreciate all the voicemails. Let's welcome in Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. So Mary Kay, some things there, and you and I have talked about this, and the bottom line is nobody other than Sue Robinson knows what the suspension is going to be. You can see the briefs, you can see anything. You don't know how she's going to render that. And then take us through, you've covered this team for quite a while, and I say that respectfully. How good of a quarterback is Deshaun Watson from what you've seen?
Well, we can start with the last part of that. I mean, he's tremendous. I mean, he's an elite quarterback. He's a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback, and that is why they took this chance. That is why they put their reputation on the line. That's why they took on all of this controversy, because they're trying to get to the Super Bowl, and they now have a quarterback that legitimately has a chance to do that, and not only to get there, but to win it. So that's what this is all about. In terms of what's going on, and Mike Florio's report that it could be 2 to 8 games. Well, I mean, what we do know right now is that it's anywhere from 0 to probably 17 games. So, I mean, like he even said, everyone is all over the road. It's just everyone's guessing, everyone's, just taking a stab at it. And, I think more so than anything, I do get the feeling, and I'm writing about this a little bit today, that I do get the feeling that Watson's camp is pretty optimistic that it's not going to be the full season that the NFL wants. However, it must be kept in mind that the NFL has been mum on this. The leaks that we're hearing about, the information that we're getting is mostly coming from the NFLPA side, and they are feeling pretty good about the situation. But we haven't heard anything from the NFL. There have been no leaks from the NFL side, if you will notice. really, since the time the hearings were over on July 30th, the NFL has been pretty mum. There hasn't been much coming out of their side. So I don't think anyone can really handicap this yet.
All right, so one of the things that we have heard from Kevin Stefanski when he talks about Deshaun Watson, the quarterback, is that he's going to incorporate some elements of the things that he did well with the Texans into the Browns offense. We kind of dug some things up. This is from the NFL Film Sessions group back in 2020. It's Deshaun Watson showing you and talking about what he does well in that Texans offense.
I don't know if any of these are reads or not, or if it's just off of your zone read. But you guys did an unbelievable job with this naked game that you had. You had a great feel for it. You did it in different ways. Just talk me through this a little bit.
It just starts with the run game. With Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson of really getting like 3 or 4 yards of carry. And then if you include my zone read ability of keeping the ball, it brings up the linebackers and it studied them. And so I don't know if I'm keeping it, if it's a play action, if it's a zone read. So
Plus you're big with these two tight ends.
Right, exactly.
Akins and Fells.
Yeah, and they can really sell if they're blocking and then slip by, like in this situation. Once I see that he out-leveraged, just give it to him.
Just give it to him every time.
Give it to him early.
Watson fakes the give, throws it to Akins. He's got the first down.
So, Mary Kay, they talked about the running backs being Carlos Hyde, Duke Johnson. We know those running backs. Browns have 2 running backs who are better, and the tight end game is going to be guys that can run more and are more threats. Are those the kind of things you think that will be incorporated into what Kevin Stefanski will do and how they will attack defenses?
Yes, absolutely. He's going to go back. He's going to look at the film. He's going to do what Deshaun Watson does well. He's going to do what Deshaun Watson is comfortable with. And so in addition to asking Deshaun about those kinds of things, he'll ask people around Deshaun about what he did well and how he did those things. But one of the first questions that I did ask Andrew Berry, and I think maybe Kevin Stefanski when they first acquired Deshaun, was, will they rely and use his running ability even though he tore that ACL as a rookie? And they said yes. I mean, you don't have that and then not use it. So we know it's the wave of the future. We know it's one of the things that makes him so dangerous. You saw it there on film, and they will take advantage of that.
Yeah, and he is also a guy, while he runs, his mobility extends plays and leads to big plays in the pass game as well. That's the other thing that his legs enable him to do.
Yes, absolutely. And again, they will fully utilize that on rollouts and bootlegs. You'll see those kinds of things. He can do so many things. He's so versatile. You know, he can run it. He can pass it while he's out on the run. He can have designed runs. He can improvise and do that. So, the mobility is something that, you watch some of these other really good quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that's one of the things that makes them so dangerous. And now the Browns have that element in their offense.
How different do you think the offense looks with Jacoby Brissett, and what does Kevin Stefanski do to play to his strengths, assuming there will be some games that Deshaun Watson misses because of a suspension?
Well, Jacoby doesn't have the long game that Deshaun Watson has. He's not as accurate on the deep ball. He doesn't take as many deep shots down the field. He will take some, but that's just not an enormous part of his game. So he does a lot of things well. He does also have some mobility. He's got the good size to be able to stand in the pocket. But he's not Deshaun. He does have some dual threat ability, so they can do some called runs and they can do some boots and rollouts in a keeper game like that. But you're not going to see the same kind of explosive, aggressive downfield offense, I don't think, that you will see with Deshaun.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Training camp a little over a week away. We'll get Mary Kay's thoughts on some of the important things that will be going on in training camp. Sports4CLE, talking Browns. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C. where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. Mary Kay, some of the long-time beat reporters that we've had on the show, Fred Greetham, Tony Grossi, even Jim Donovan, said they think this may be the best roster that the Browns have put together. You've covered the team for quite a while as well. How good is this roster? Is it up there with the top? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty deep and robust at pretty much every position, especially if Deshaun Watson is out there. I mean, if you put him out there, then I think you can call it the best roster since they've been back in 1999 and probably beyond, because there just aren't many elite quarterbacks like Deshaun Watson. As I said before, he has Hall of Fame caliber talent. And if he continues on this current trajectory, he will be in that type of discussion. But then you move to, the great running backs, the receiving core, they're young, but, they've got Amari. The defense, I think, is going to be dynamite this year, really strong at so many positions. So I would say this is one of the best rosters that I've covered.
Now, training camp starts a week from tomorrow. What are the biggest questions going into camp for you, and what are you paying the closest attention to when you go out and look at that? What's going to draw your attention?
Well, first and foremost, just how does Jacoby look with the receivers? How is he functioning in the offense? What kinds of things are they doing with him? How is he developing chemistry with his pass catchers? Are they going downfield a fair amount with the ball? Are they going to rely on a shorter passing game and let these guys get run after catch? Are they going to involve Kareem Hunt more in the offense, put him on the field more with Nick Chubb, maybe split him out wide some, play him in the slot? How is David Bell coming along? I think that's going to be important. Those are some things on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, we're going to look at the defensive tackles. We're going to see how they're doing. We're going to see how they're stacking up. And if for some reason it looks like they need a little help there, they might reevaluate that situation. But as I tweeted and reported, and Ndamukong Suh is not on the radar. But, just how has JOK progressed in his second season, as well as some of the other young guys?
What area of the roster, what area concerns you the most? You mentioned how strong it is. No roster is really complete in the entire NFL. That's kind of what the salary cap is designed to do. What area of this roster concerns you the most?
Not overly concerned with any area. I mean, you cannot have, just really super strong superstars at every single position. So there's a little bit of give and take. And one of the places where, they may have sacrificed a little bit this year is at the defensive tackle spot. They're not overly worried about it. I've said this many times. I would still consider adding a Sheldon Richardson into the mix. I think, he's still out there. I think he'd be good on many levels. You look at the receiving core, and I still would add one more veteran receiver to the mix in the event Amari Cooper suffers some kind of an injury this year, even though he's sort of an Iron Man and doesn't get injured. But that's another area that I would probably look at.
So, along the lines of Amari Cooper, wide receivers with 7,000 yards receiving, 500 receptions before their age 28 season. This is a pretty elite list to be on. You have Randy Moss, DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Evans, Larry Fitzgerald, Antonio Brown, and Amari Cooper. So that, if you're on a list with DeAndre Hopkins and Randy Moss, you're in really good company. What can Browns fans expect to see from Amari Cooper, do you think?
Once again, every single answer that we give right now is qualified by, is Deshaun Watson the quarterback? Because if he is the quarterback, then I think you can see tremendous things from Amari Cooper, who's fast. He can stretch the field. He can get those yards after catch. He can, catch any route. He's one of the best route runners in the NFL. But I think he will be maximized by Deshaun Watson being on the field. So a lot of what he accomplishes will be based on that, although he has had success in his career, even without a Derek Carr or a Dak Prescott or a Deshaun Watson type of player. But still, Deshaun should elevate the play of all of those pass catchers, Amari included.
One of the things that you hear about the Browns is they can't develop wide receivers. Is it fair to say that kind of goes hand in hand with getting a quarterback that you have for a number of years and feel comfortable developing?
Well, I mean, they've relied in the last number of years on Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. And when you have two guys like that in your lineup, you're not too overly worried about developing receivers. But now it's time to start thinking about doing that and getting some of their own young guys, which is why they drafted a David Bell, why they're trying to develop a Donovan Peoples-Jones, and why they haven't given up yet by any stretch of the imagination on Anthony Schwartz. So they believe in these guys. They think that they will be better when Deshaun's on the field.
Okay, I know you've written about this. It's will Myles Garrett win an NFL Defensive Player of the Year award? What are your thoughts, and take us through that article?
Well, there's so much competition for that award and so many really good guys that he is bumping up against at this time in his career. To play at the same time in the NFL when you've got Aaron Donald and TJ Watt and some of these amazing defenders, it's going to be tough to win that award. But he certainly has the capability to do it. He certainly has the talent to do it. The two things that I think that he needs to improve upon and do better, number one, he's got to get more takeaways and, just make more of those impact plays that enable you to dominate the game, get that ball back for your offense, jump off the page, and just really crush it. And that's what we see Aaron Donald doing on a consistent basis. And I think the coaches want that out of him. He wants that out of himself. The other thing is to finish strong. For one reason or another, Myles Garrett has really not been able to finish strong over the last 3 seasons, whether it be because of suspension or injury or COVID. And so finishing strong would really help him win that NFL Defensive Player of the Year award. And if he can get 1 or 2 of those, it will strengthen his case for the Hall of Fame.
How impressive has it been to kind of see him grow into that leadership role? He really kind of assumed that vocal leader of the defense a season ago, and that's not something he always was comfortable doing.
Yeah, he really has taken it upon himself to be that leader because it is so vitally important for him to finish his career by getting to Super Bowls and winning them. That's what he wants to do. It's not enough to get these individual accolades that he outlined when he was a rookie. He wants that brass ring. He wants that Lombardi trophy. So, that's what he's really focused on now. And he's holding everybody to a higher standard. Last year, I think we saw him not only occasionally calling out his own teammates to step it up a little bit, but at times the coaches too. And he's serving notice that he's taking no prisoners, and everybody has to be at peak efficiency, playing at top level to be on this team.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer. Cleveland.com and I are going to step aside, take another timeout, other side of the break, turn our attention to that backfield, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Sports for CLE, we'll be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms.
Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery, partners in education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Mary Kay, I know you've addressed this topic on the Orange and Brown podcast. Do you think the Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt backfield is kind of on its last legs?
I think it's going to be up to Kareem this year to just make it impossible for them to let him walk in free agency. But at this point, it does seem like it's headed towards him playing out his contract unless they do something during the season. I don't think anything's going to get done before training camp opens next week. He would love that to happen, but it does seem like it's sort of headed towards, let's see how this kind of goes a little bit. But it doesn't mean it's going to be over for him. It means that it's time for him to show what he can do this year and to make it impossible for them to let him get away in the offseason. And of course, it'll come down to money and health and a bunch of different things, but some of it is in his control.
When we saw earlier in the show the Texans playing with two backs, Duke Johnson and Carlos Hyde, guys that Browns fans are familiar with. Do you see Kevin Stefanski going to two backs a little bit? If again, assuming Deshaun Watson plays a significant amount of games, could we see Hunt and Chubb in the same backfield, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. In the third year of the system and with a quarterback like Deshaun Watson, first of all, chances are that they will have the ball more. They will have more opportunities to run more things than they did last year. They should be able to remain on offense in possession of the ball and open things up. So I think that you will see some different things. We saw those two guys on the field together some in the OTAs and in minicamp, and we all want to see more of it. I think there are so many different things that you can do out of that type of thing, whether one splits wide, whether you throw, whether you run, whether you put them both in the backfield, where you put them in the eye. Whatever you want to do, you can do so many things with those two guys together, and it would be nice to see a little bit more of that.
Let's talk a little bit, and again, I know you've answered this in your Hey Mary Kay segments. Do you think it's realistic to expect David Bell to kind of jump in and do things kind of seamlessly as a rookie?
Well, he's going to have to come up the learning curve very quickly and once again qualify it. Deshaun Watson will bring out the best in him. He will help elevate the play of David Bell. He's lockering next to David Bell, Deshaun is, and so those guys are spending a lot of time together. I watched him mentor him and coach him up a little bit on the field, so he's a little bit of his project. Now, he won't be around potentially, Deshaun, after training camp is over for a while, but in the meantime, I think he's really going to help David Bell just mature very quickly into his role. And they have high expectations for him this year. We've heard Kevin Stefanski talk about him, and he speaks very, very highly of the rookie.
Offensive line is an area that is considered to be a strength. What areas of that have to kind of step it up in order for the line to be what the Browns expect it to be this season, do you think?
Well, they have high hopes for Nick Harris at center, replacing J.C. Tretter. So that's first and foremost. You want to have that position solidified. You don't ever realize how important a really good center is until you don't have one. So Nick Harris is really going to have to fill those big shoes. And then you have to hope for really good health from your tackles this year. And they do have their depth with Chris Hubbard being back, but they need to hope that Jack Conklin can stay healthy this year and come back strong from the torn patella, and that Jed Wills has put behind him his ankle woes. So if they can do that, they'll be really strong on the outsides and all the way through.
If Wills can stay healthy, do you think there's a confidence that he can kind of take a step forward from where he was as a rookie? Remember, he switched from right tackle to left tackle. And last year, you could tell he was playing against getting that ankle healthy pretty much all year.
Yeah, that's certainly the hope, and the expectation is that he will live up to that number 10 overall status. That's why they drafted him, to be a Pro Bowl type left tackle. They still believe he has that in him, and they're hoping to see more of that type of caliber of play this year. It's going to take a ton of hard work on his part. We heard guys like Wyatt Teller talk about that last year. We've heard Joe Thomas address it, that Jed needs to maybe step it up a little bit in the work ethic department, but he certainly has the motivation and guys pushing him to do that.
All right, before we let you go, and I know you've talked about this on the on your Orange and Brown podcast as well. A lot of fans are worried that Baker Mayfield is going to be sharing secrets with the Panthers in Week 1. I have two-part question. Browns installed a completely different offense during minicamp, and do you think the defense has more of an advantage because they saw him every day in practice?
Yeah, I'm going to say that the Browns are going to have the advantage in facing Baker Mayfield because, he was here. They know him so very well. They know his strengths. They know his weaknesses. The coaches know what to take away. They know how to defend him. And conversely, the coaches can change things up enough on offense that Baker isn't going to have that scouting report. He isn't going to necessarily know what they've done to change up the offense, how they've done things different from a terminology standpoint, from a personnel standpoint. But Baker is going to be Baker, even though they will scheme it up differently for him. He still is who he is, and they know him very well.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter as always. Mary Kay, thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks for having me.
Mary Kay Cabot, make sure you read her Pages of the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, Jacob Roach from Dog Pound Daily joins us. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Sports4CLE continues. We continue talking Browns. NBC Sports' Mike Florio, former attorney, on how the Texans' settlements with those 30 civil lawsuits against them last week could, in fact, help Deshaun Watson in his disciplinary hearing. Here's Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk.
Frankly, if I'm representing Deshaun Watson's interests, as we wait for Judge Sue L. Robinson to issue a decision on whether and to what extent he's going to be suspended, maybe I submit a supplemental letter to her saying, hey, if the Texans have settled these 30 claims and the league isn't even looking into it, that's just all the more reason for the league to not have grounds to impose a significant suspension on Deshaun Watson. Now, one last point. What impact does this have on Deshaun Watson? Because it may be one of those, be careful what you wish for. If Deshaun Watson starts arguing the Texans should be investigated for how they mishandled the allegation that I engaged in serious misconduct, I mean, you kind of want to downplay that if you're Watson. And this is on the surface good news for Watson because it ends the possibility of him getting dragged into the cases that were and would be filed against the Texans. No deposition, no trial testimony. He's got his 4 cases left. And based upon the fact that the Texans settled with 30 and there were 24 cases filed against Watson, there are 6 more out there who potentially could sue him. So 4 existing, 6 potential. That's it. Once those are done, they're done.
And with that, let's welcome in Jacob Roach, Dog Pound Daily. And Jacob, there seems to be a movement, if you believe reports, that suspension is going to be less than we initially thought.
Yeah, it does seem that for a while it trended like it was going up and up, and then all of a sudden it started kind of trending down and down. But, you know, I think what Florio said was really interesting about where Watson's like, oh, well, maybe I would use this, but also tread carefully because it could bring more attention to you. But an interesting thing to consider in this situation is that in the statement that the Texans released when they settled, they said that they did not do anything wrong. They weren't aware of this, and it was just an act of solidarity. So if that is true, then there really isn't allegedly anything that could be dug up from these cases, according to the Texans.
Yeah, there is no quote-unquote smoking gun. And you know, again, we haven't heard any of the evidence, but from the reports, there isn't anything that you kind of expected something big to come out, and it just hasn't. Again, nobody knows for certain what the suspension will be other than the judge, Sue Robinson, and she's expected to issue her finding likely not later this week, but sometime next week when training camp gets underway. All right, let's turn the page a little bit. And I know you've answered this question. A lot of criticism goes to Kevin Stefanski, and especially his play calling. Do you think he was kind of hampered by, one, you know, his concerns with Baker Mayfield, 2, the injuries that Baker Mayfield had last year? Do you think that is he trying to call plays around a number of issues? And if so, what do you think his offense looks like once Deshaun Watson finally gets on the field?
Yeah, I think that a lot of blame was unfairly placed on Kevin Stefanski. He's not infallible. Wow, I shouldn't have tried to use that word. He's not without blame at all for some of the issues. There's definitely some things he could have done better last year. But there was limitations with his quarterback and his offensive line. You remember how good the offensive line was in 2020, which really allowed Baker to do a lot of these play actions and these boots and these clean pockets where they could use this deception and misdirection. That there was a turnstile at tackle at time last year. And I think that his adjustments at times worked, but at times he kept calling plays that the plays were working, but the quarterback wasn't capable of playing. So he didn't, that's kind of where some of the changes should have been made that I do blame for him or on him. But with Watson, I think we've kind of seen it in minicamp and stuff. It's going to be a much more potent and potentially vertical passing game if they can get some players like Anthony Schwartz to step up with the field stretching ability. But I think you saw an offense that used the run to set up the pass in the past 2 seasons. And I think it's going to literally flip-flop. And I think the pass is going to set up everything else with Deshaun Watson once he's on the field.
Yeah, to your point, they were at times playing their 4th and 5th tackles. And don't underestimate, you know, Odell Beckham was supposed to be the number 1 receiver for whatever reason. That never materialized. Jarvis Landry, the number 2, was hurt. So you're down to your 3rd, 4th, sometimes 5th wide receivers. So that will hamper a offensive genius, if you will, and that's the hand that Kevin Stefanski was dealt at times last year. All right, here's another one. I know you've answered this from your mailbag on Dog Pound Daily as well. Do you think the defensive tackles who start week 1 are on our roster right now, and if so, who do you think they are?
Yeah, I do. I think at least one of them is, if not both of them. Right now, as long as they don't have a bad training camp and preseason or get hurt, of course, the Browns want Taven Bryan and Jordan Elliott to be the starters. They went after Taven Bryan relatively early in free agency. If you remember, it was that first week, the first couple of days. You know, you were waiting for like a big signing, and it was almost like Taven Bryan was the only one for them after, you know, obviously the Watson situation. But they feel like, I think that Taven Bryan was just poorly used in a disaster of a situation in Jacksonville the last few years. And I think they see an athletic profile in him when he was coming out of Florida that made him a first-round pick. And they think that Jordan Elliott has finally flipped the switch. So I think they're on there. Whether I agree with that or not, that's up for debate. But right now, if gun pressed to my head trying to, make a prediction, I think it's Jordan Elliott and Taven Bryan.
Yeah, and that would be similar to Tack McKinley, different position, but they kind of felt like McKinley wasn't put in a really good situation, and he played pretty well. So I think you're right. I think they feel Taven Bryan similarly that they can unlock that first-round potential. Do you think we'll move on a little bit. Do you think the Browns are settled at wide receiver? What's your kind of read of that? And those are the two positions, interior defensive line and wide receiver. Everybody points to those.
Yeah, I think, again, like with the way things, I think it's almost the same. Like, I think they really like the potential and upside of these young guys on the roster. And, I think there's some UDFA guys in there that may surprise that they really like, that they invested some nice UDFA dollars at wide receiver in. And they need Anthony Schwartz. I really think he's the linchpin. I don't think he's going to be your number one, your number two wide receiver. That's not what I'm saying, but his ability to stretch the field vertically will complement the rest of the parts in that room. And with the elevation that they think Watson will give to all of the wide receivers, I think they really do like that room as long as there's not an injury. I could see like a veteran that gets cut, like maybe on cut day, that kind of is a surprise cut and they can get like for a minimum. Maybe they bring one of them in so they don't have to rely as heavily on a first-year player and David Bell and a second-year player and Anthony Schwartz. But I think right now they're pretty set for training camp, barring anything crazy. I think they really think that these guys that they drafted, their guys, are going to take the steps forward that they think they can.
Yeah, and to your point with Anthony Schwartz, he doesn't have to catch a ton of passes. He has to catch a couple where he gets behind the defense so that the defense starts to go, yeah, we got to put somebody back there and be aware of where that guy is on the field. All right, before I let you go, undrafted free agents that you think could make the Browns roster, some guys that you're excited to see. You mentioned when you say UDF, that's undrafted free agents. So who are some of the guys that you like?
I got four that you should really watch. I think I actually feel like two of these guys are going to make the roster, and probably the other two end up being probably practice squad guys, but there's two in the wide receiver room, Isaiah Weston and Mike Harley Jr. Isaiah Weston, he's a little bit older, I think almost 25, or he will be 25 by the season, but he's got 4.42 speed. And if he played at Northern Iowa, he's kind of probably not going to get a lot better than he is right now. So he's probably got a low ceiling, but man, that guy gets vertical in a hurry. I mean, he's got good size and he can stretch the field vertically, kind of a replacement if Anthony Schwartz, goes down or needs to miss, some time just rotating through that, or if Anthony Schwartz isn't ready. And I like Isaiah out of Northern Iowa, but you turn also to Mike Harley from Miami. He's a true slot receiver. The Browns do not have a guy on their roster that is a true slot receiver by trade. I mean, they want to kind of make David Bell a slot receiver, but if you're looking for a true blue slot receiver, Mike Harley did a ton of producing at Miami, Florida, like a 5-year producer down there, a little bit older as well. I think you really need to watch him in camp. And then in the slot corner is Sean Jolly from App State. He got a pretty big contract from the Browns. And again, they're looking for a slot corner. I think Greg Newsome is the starter of slot, but you need some depth there. And I think that Sean Jolly probably makes this roster as the 6th or 7th corner. And then you look at Glenn Logan, a defensive tackle, comes out of LSU, started his career as a defensive end, and then moved interior by gaining like 30 or 40 pounds. So he's got like the size and the athleticism and the know-how. He's one of the only ones on this roster that has a body type that says run stuffing defensive tackle. So, and he also got a pretty big contract. So I think Sean Jolly and Glenn Logan likely could make this roster, and those other two wide receivers are going to battle.
Jacob Roach, Dog Pound Daily, as always, good stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Jacob.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Jacob Roach, make sure you read them. Dog Pound Daily. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, Brad Ward from BrownsWire.com, as well as the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. So this was tweeted out a little bit earlier by Josina Anderson. Told as part of the post-hearing briefs, the NFL essentially argued the declaration in its own personal conduct policy that owners will be subjected to more significant discipline is irrelevant in the Deshaun Watson proceeding at hand, per a league source. Also told that as of this morning, Sue L. Robinson has provided no indication her decision is coming this week, per that league source. Continue to monitor. With that, let's welcome in Brad Ward. He is the host of the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast, writes for BrownsWire.com. Brad, that's an awfully tough. So that owners held to a higher standard was written in after the collective bargaining process, and now the owners want to say, well, it doesn't matter in this case. Good luck with that one.
Yeah, I can't believe they actually put that in their brief. It'd be like if me and you were neighbors, Dave, and we had an agreement that I would never come on your property, but I came over at 3 a.m. and took your lawnmower and then told you that the agreement we made initially was irrelevant, right? Like, I mean, it's pointless. Like, right. Whatever you write down, and no, it's irrelevant. Why? I want to know why it's irrelevant. Because we said so? I mean, there's no basis behind that. It makes no sense, actually. So I'm surprised that they would actually write that. The NFL's case that they've put forward has been very unimpressive so far, at least from what we've heard in leaks. And surely we're hearing stuff from Watson's camp and the NFL at the same time. So that's why we get these conflicting reports. But this seems rather silly to put that in your brief, right? I mean, that they helped, litigate that or put that into the CBA. So now they want to make it irrelevant, which seems ridiculous.
Yeah, and as Mike Florio pointed out earlier in our show, now every time that you have an instance where a player is being looked at for the personal conduct code, NFLPA is going to point to everything that you have done relative to the owners.
Yeah, absolutely. The precedents there, it's the only precedents, really. I mean, because of the way that this is the first time that they're actually going through this process this way, it was a good job by Watson's defense to find that part of the CBA and shine a light on it, because it's not. They haven't followed that part of it. And it plays to Watson's favor, I think, just logically, I think.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it probably sounded just fine when you were negotiating the collective bargaining agreement. The league's going to want that out. I guarantee you they're going to want that out the next round of collective bargaining. All right, this also from Mike Florio, talking about the settlements that the Texans did with the 30 claimants against them. and how it could present some challenges in Deshaun Watson's case.
Is there bad news? Well, these settlements, they help fund the litigation against him. That's just money that pays expenses that may cause the plaintiffs to say, hey, look, I got some compensation. I'm willing to roll the dice and go to trial and say no to whatever Deshaun Watson offers, unless he really offers a lot. The price goes up to get the plaintiffs now who are still remaining against Deshaun Watson to take a deal. So that could impact him in a negative way. But the best news, I think, is the fact that he doesn't have to worry about this thing continuing to hang over him, even if he settles all of his claims. He doesn't have to worry about the claims against the Texans. And I think from the NFL's perspective, that's good news too. They just want this to end.
Couple things in there, Brad. I think Deshaun Watson wants it to end. I think the NFL wants it to end. The point about the claimants maybe wanting more to settle, that's something I did not think of. That is, I think, a valid point.
I do too. The fact that, well, there's 4 outstanding cases, right? So those 4 accusers, though, now can hold out, right? I mean, like, they actually have a large sum of money probably from the NFL or from the Texans at this point. And so no longer is it so immediate a need to acquire more money or get that payday from Watson, and they can wait it out longer probably and pay for more legal fees and whatnot to really fight this if they are in it for more than just the money, right? So, which has been an accusation, and we've heard some things about that too, some of the plaintiffs. But I think, it certainly helps them and doesn't help Watson. It's going to cost him more, but he certainly has the money to pay it eventually if he does decide to settle those. The interesting thing I thought about this, though, real quick, is 30 cases, right? We heard about, and Deshaun settles 20. There's 24, 4 outstanding. We heard about a 25th and a 26th coming along for a while there, but then they never came. I asked a lawyer about this because I was like, whatever happened to those cases? Is it possible that those got settled before they ever got filed as a part of that claim or as a part of the initial settlement on the 20 accusers, right? And he said that it is possible with NDAs and stuff that we wouldn't know. And part of that was that they never came forward as a part of a settlement with them. So it's possible that maybe those accusers were paid in that settlement on the hush, right? So maybe it wasn't just the 20 women, it was just the 20 accusers, women accusers that had filed claims already, and maybe they paid off a couple additional and we don't know about it yet.
Yep. And again, Watson, NFL, everybody wants it to kind of be settled and move on. All right, we're going to move on. So this is kind of interesting. Myles Garrett gets a 99, so the highest rating on Madden. Here are the top 10 edge rushers. Myles, the only 99 of the bench, so he is the highest rated. You see TJ Watt gets a 96, and he is the reigning defensive player of the year. We take a look at this tweet. Watt's 96 is the lowest rating for a Defensive Player of the Year winner over the past 8 seasons. So, and he did tie a single season sack record a season ago. So, Myles Garrett ranked as the best. And again, it's a ranking system like any other, but it's very interesting that it's the lowest ranking, but for TJ Watt, of any Defensive Player of the Year.
It is. I think it kind of goes to Garrett's maybe athletic or superior athletic upside, along with his tremendous being maybe the best defensive end in the league, getting the 99 and then him being a 96. And I don't really have a problem with him. Maybe he should have been a little bit higher because he's Defensive Player of the Year. But the guys below him aren't down to like 94, 92. So I'm not going to kick and scream about it, right? I mean, I think that he I understand that it's the lowest of a Defensive Player of the Year, but I don't have a huge problem with it. I think that Garrett, all probably year in, year out, and I may be biased here, is better or the better edge. They're very close. maybe not 99 to 96 close, but I think they're splitting hairs pretty much there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's the athleticism. You know, there's the speed, the agility, all those things that Garrett's just off the charts with. Brad Ward from the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast, brownswire.com, and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Also take a look at some game tape of Deshaun Watson, how the Browns might use him in their offense. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one, a question about Deshaun Watson and the upcoming possible suspension.
Hi, my name is Kevin from Akron. My question is regarding the Deshaun Watson case and possible suspension. Do you believe there's a possibility that Judge Robinson will take into account the fact that he already sat out the last year he was with the Texans, even though it wasn't forced by the NFL in any way? I mean, he still sat out. And I'm just wondering if maybe she might take that into consideration in terms of making her decision. Thank you so much, and go Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Brad, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. So Mike Florio found a clause in the collective bargaining agreement where if you're on paid leave, which Watson was not, you could revert that paid leave to the equivalent of a suspension if you paid back the money. So if they were really trying to do that, it would cost Deshaun Watson an entire year's salary, which I believe was $10 million for last year, and it could be retroactively considered a year suspension. I don't think Sue Robinson is going to do that to Watson, but there is a mechanism where you could figure out a way to do that were they so inclined to.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see any of that happen, as you kind of alluded to. I think that because he wasn't on paid leave, so he was just not playing and getting paid, right? So I don't know if it would qualify. Maybe it would, but either way, I don't think they're going down that road. Watson and certainly Sue Robinson, and as much as they would maybe even make a case for it, time served isn't really going to work here as far as that goes, because he was paid and because it was by choice for him to sit out, right? So, I don't think there's not. I wish they would. I wish they'd give him time served, right? That'd be great for the Browns, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah, it was mutually agreed upon between him and the team that he wasn't going to play. So, and he did collect his salary. All right, so the Browns have said they're going to find ways to use Deshaun Watson. They're going to incorporate some of the stuff that he did well from the Texans. They have a lot of things that they can do. So Watson, with the Texans, did some zone reads, some run-pass options, just a lot for the defense to handle. Here's a look at some of the breakdown. This is from the NFL film sessions.
I have an option of reading the end. we get a squeeze scrape by the linebacker in the DN. I think it was 57. He kind of gets honed in inside. They're relying on this front side, 48, to run with the tight end.
Right.
And that's no chance.
Yeah.
And once I see the tight end I leverage, I can doubt him.
But is this an RPO then?
You can basically say it's an RPO for sure. Yeah.
But off for an option game.
Right.
So is it a three-way option then? You could
Basically,
keep it,
yeah, I
you
can
hand
keep it, throw it, or the running back can get it.
So you have run calls where your big tight end's going to come across and kick that end guy out.
Right.
And then you have other run calls that are the RPOs where he's going to come across and he's going to go to the flat every time. So if you pull it, and that to me is the beauty of it. So that's why when I put these on here, I'm like, I don't know if he's got a run read or not. I don't know if it's just a naked and it just looks like the run read. But so you've got all three. You've got some that are just called runs, some that are called nakeds, and then some that are run reads with the naked principles off of it.
And Brad, what that tells you, that's an NFL Hall of Fame quarterback who can't tell what they're doing. Imagine what a defense is trying to figure out. And the Browns, by the way, have better running backs and probably better tight ends, more athletic tight ends than he was working with in Houston.
Yeah, 100%. You know, the thing about Watson is his ability to process what the defense is doing, he's so quickly, right? Like, so when you're putting him in zone read, RPO, and even there where it's run pass option, and you know, he has three options, right? So when you're putting him in those situations with the zone read and the RPOs where he can process what the defense is trying to do to him and then have the athletic ability to counteract what the defense is doing so quickly, he's going to win so often. And he's so good off schedule. You watch him in the pocket. He manipulates the pocket well. I was watching some other film of him, and just the way that he steps up in the pocket makes room for himself and makes throws off schedule is incredible. You know, Browns fans aren't used to that, right? So at least not to this level. But with the RPO stuff and the zone read, you're absolutely right. I mean, his ability to just process and then athletically put it into motion so quickly is going to leave defenses just dumbfounded sometimes and just not be able to keep up with it. Plus the disguise factor there, as you mentioned, was incredible. So
imagine what you're doing to a defense, to either a linebacker or a safety with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. If you're on your heels, those are two guys that are going to run you over and have fun doing it.
Yeah, absolutely, every time. And then, and if they don't have it, and you go his way, Watson's going to make you pay with his feet or with his arms. So it opens up a whole bunch of the playbook that has never for Stefanski been touched, right? So that's something to look forward to for Browns fans.
All right, this from Doug Poundaly. 3 keys to a successful 2022 season. Number 3, defense needs to hold leads late in game. That's always a key, going to be definitely a huge key there. 2, team needs to involve Nick Chubb more in the passing game. Okay, I can see that, I guess. And number 1, protect the quarterback. So, again, be it Jacoby Brissett or Deshaun Watson, give them time to throw the football when they have it. When you look at that, hard to argue with any of them. Just your thoughts.
Yeah, on the Nick Chubb thing, it's not so much like that I want to get Nick Chubb more involved in the pass game, is that whoever's playing quarterback for the Browns needs to take what the defense is giving you more often than we saw Baker Mayfield do over the years, right? Like many times he would throw the ball downfield when there's an open running back coming out of the backfield or in the flat. Sometimes as a NFL quarterback, you just need to make the easy read and the easy throw and take the 5 yards and get to 2nd and 5 and get to 3rd and 2. And so a lot of times Mayfield missed those easy ones. So take what the defense is giving you. That's what I would say, and use your running backs for that. Doesn't necessarily need to be Nick Chubb because you have Kareem Hunt. You've got a bunch of guys that can do that. And Chubb doesn't, I mean, he can catch it out of the backfield, but I don't want to feature him as a receiver, right? But I think more along the lines of, yeah, use those guys when that's what they're giving you, for sure. And that's something that I think both Brissett and certainly Watson will do better than Baker did here with Cleveland.
Before I let you go, do you think the screen game becomes a huge part of what this offense does?
Yeah, I think it already has been. I think even more though. So like I think Stefanski is always very timely with his screens, but I think you can even get more creative with Watson, and especially what we heard out of OTAs and minicamp with two backs on the field more often. A lot of stuff you can do creatively if you got Hunt and Chubb or Johnson and Hunt and Johnson and Chubb out on the field at the same time as Watson or Brissett, misdirection to a screen. They're very creative with that stuff, using your tight ends as well. So I think the screen game is a huge part of this offense, and what they're going to do with two backs on the field opens up more there as well. So unlocking parts of this playbook is huge for this year, even if it is Brissett, just a different approach. NFL kind of caught up to Kevin a little bit last year, and I'm a big Stefanski proponent, but it's time to make some wrinkles, right, and do a couple things differently, even if it is Brissett.
Yeah, I'm with you. They definitely have the weapons to do that. Brad Ward, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks, Brad.
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. Anytime.
All right, Brad Ward, make sure you catch him. Host of the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. Can also see him, brownswire.com, read his stuff. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow on Sports for CLE.